Hey guys, first regards in here, and so I'll be talking about a Pyre Blaster tactical build for Space Marine 2 patch 13. And now, the Pyre Blaster is still one of the strongest builds in the entire game. I do still think this is the overall best build for the tactical class in this patch as well. And even though they nerfed the boss damage on this weapon by 20% for the burn on Terminus, it is still a very potent effect on the boss enemies in the game. You will still nuke bosses. It is a very overpowered weapon in a lot of cases, and still one of the strongest options in Space Marine 2 period, so we're going to be building around that today. So first up, I take the venting speed version here, mainly because the tactical does not have to care like at all about ammo economy when it comes to the Emperor's Vengeance perk. This effectively gives you infinite ammo on your Pyre Blaster, and because of that, you have the luxury of taking the venting speed and firing for longer, so pretty good option here. And also, we are building around direct damage and burn on this build, so having a longer venting speed is pretty nice to give us like a longer time on just our direct damage burn. Now for the perk tree here, I do take the perk Improved Fast Venting first. Weapons cool 20% faster. Moving here into the perk Eternal Flame. Burning time increases by 25%. Even with that burn nerf, it is still worth taking burn perks because burn is just that strong as an effect, and that nerf only affected the bosses, so things like Majoris, Extremis, and Hormagaunts and stuff like that, they will still get purged very easily by burn in this game. Next perk here is Potent Flame. Burning damage increases by 15%. Then I move here into the perk Flame of Ascension. Burning 5 enemies restores 1 armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Getting 1 armor back for just lighting enemies on fire is hilariously effective in this game. 1 armor restoration like this is super strong on tactical because any amount of armor remaining will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0 even from bosses. I know I talk about that all the time, but because the tactical is so squishy, having this armor restoration built into your gun, this makes you super tanky, so a really good option. Or maybe not like super tanky, but it makes you far tankier than you would be otherwise. It's pretty much just like a free perk. Next perk here is Potent Flame. Burning damage increases by 15% again. And then we move down here into the perk Flash Burn. Enemies at a distance of less than 10 meters take 20% more damage. So if you stack perks like this on top of Balanced Distribution, on top of stuff like Relentless Pursuit, you will start to just cook bosses at like point blank. And when you put down Auspex down, you will do even more damage to them on not only your burn effect, but also that direct damage. So you'll cook them pretty quickly, even with that nerfed burn. So a really strong option here, and Flash Burn's a pretty good perk. Next perk here is Increased Capacity, and the final perk is Flame Purification. Burning enemies take 20% more melee damage. This will apply a debuff to the enemy that affects not just your melee damage, but also your teammates, so pretty good for stuff like an Assault that is flying in to do free Nova damage to a Hellbrute and stuff like that, so a really powerful perk. And overall, I do prefer these 2 bottom ones over the top tree here, because even though the perk here, Resilient Flame, gives you a 75% reduction in your charging time, which just means that you don't actually have any startup on the Pyre Blasters having like a burn effect go out. On like the hard strats and operations, I don't think that matters too much, and for the most part, you're just better off having Flame Purification. And also the perk up here, Pure Flame, burning damage increases by 15%, direct damage decreases by 50%. The direct damage on this gun is actually pretty good, so losing 50% damage on that does kind of suck, so I do just prefer this bottom option for that reason. Now for our secondary option, I do take the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol, Retribution's Request. This has the heroic perk effect that is called No Help Is Coming. Shooting enemy through lead stream status stops from calling for reinforcements, and headshots will kill in 1 shot. Now, the reason I like this pistol on this build over, say, the Plasma, and I will just say the caveat here that the Plasma pistol is still very strong, rate of fire, heroic Plasma. If you want to build this build with the Plasma Boost perk, you can definitely do that. That is still a god tier build in the game. This is just another variant of like what I think is the overall best tactical build in Space Marine 2, so I just want to make sure that like people are aware of that. Now, as far as this weapon goes, the reason I take this on this build in particular is because with the perk here, Balanced Distribution, you will be losing 15% damage on your secondary, but because of that heroic perk effect that is allowing you to one-shot reinforcement calling enemies, in a lot of cases, you'll just get free one-shots from this perk, and this perk will like have full capacity no matter what, even with that reduction in damage. So you really do not care too much about the actual loss and like the base damage of this weapon. Now, for the perk tree setup on this, I do build it this way. I go Divine Might first, into the perk here, Perpetual Penetration, Increased Capacity, Extended Magazine, the perk here, Death Strike, which is after killing a Majoris or higher enemy in melee combat, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds, because this is just a free damage buff for you, and all you have to do to trigger this perk is to just melee execute an enemy. If you have your weapon equipped, it will trigger. If you swap off your weapon for any reason, you will lose the effects. Just keep that in mind. Next perk here is Great Might. Up here into the perk Discipline, when you have low ammo, you deal 25% more damage. And then I grab the perk here, Strong Finish, Headhunter, Gunstrike Reload, and Tactical Precision for 20% more damage on headshots, and non-headshot damage decreasing by 10%. Because this perk is still godlike in the game, and even though in patch 13 they buffed up body shot damage, headshot damage is still overall better. So even with that reduction in our base damage, we pick that perk up. And that's pretty much all there is for the secondary here. Now for the melee weapon, we do once again take the Heroic Combat Knife, the Argent Edge. The Argent Edge is just that good in Space Marine 2. They also buffed up the perk description, or excuse me, they fixed the perk description to properly represent what this weapon does now. It is called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. Now when this says it staggers an enemy on each perfect parry, that just means that attacks that would usually not grant you a perfect parry opportunity for a gun strike will give you one on the first parry no matter what. So for example, a triple Ravener hit, the first hit of that will usually not give you a gun strike opportunity. With this weapon, it will give you one. So really good for keeping yourself alive and avoiding stun locks. Now for the perk tree on this, I do go down the top tree predominantly because I just don't think the slow speed of 3+ here is that good for like kinetic energy. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter too much because this weapon is just a parry stick for you, and the actual perk damage here doesn't matter a ton. So first up, I take Armored Strength into the perk here, Sharp Impact. Then we grab Perpetual Strength into the perk Combined Onslaught for more light attack damage. Then I grab the perk Tide of Battle, Shoulder Bash, Reeling Blow, Shadow Stab, and Terminus Slayer. If you want to, you could take Extremis Slayer. It really does not matter too much. I just prefer the Shoulder Bash lunging attack because this one has way better recovery frames, and it's just a better option in general, in my opinion. And that's pretty much all there is for his weapon setup on this build. Now, for the perk tree, we do start off with Balanced Distribution. Your primary weapon deals 15% more damage, but your secondary weapon deals 15% less damage. This is a really good perk to buff up the direct damage of your Pyroblast, but this also got buffed in patch 12 from 10% to a positive 15%, but they also made the negative a 15% damage reduction instead of 10% as well. So a little bit more downside there, but still very strong. Now, like I said before, if you want to take Plasma Boost for a Plasma Pistol, you can definitely do that. That is up to you. Next perk here is also a bit of a choice. So first up, I take Relentless Pursuit here. After a gun strike, range damage increases by 25% for 10 seconds. This will buff up the direct damage of your Pyroblaster even more for like better boss nuking, but I will say, if you want to take versatility for plasma, you could do that, but if you're also just trying to like have the easiest time ever, Titan Vigor will give you no knockback on a perfect parry, and that will allow you to just like fire off your Pyroblaster against Whip Warriors who are trying to whack you, because the issue is Whip Warriors and really annoying enemies like Chaos Spawn, they will just stagger you occasionally without this perk, or like without a no knockback effect, and because of that, you won't be able to get the full damage potential of your Pyroblaster off sometimes. If you want to take this perk, you definitely can. We're just taking this for damage today. Next perk here is Emperor's Vengeance. Killing a Majoris or higher enemy restores your prime defense ammo by 1 magazine. Cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. Cooldown is 30 seconds. This just completely solves the ammo economy of the Pyroblaster. You will practically never run out of ammo with this perk, so pretty much always pick it up. The next perk here is the God tier perk, Secure Stockpile. Equipment charge restored by 1 for all team members. Cooldown is 60 seconds. This is just a 60-second Pyroblaster canister, Melt a Bomb, Shock Nade, Crack, you name it. It is a top tier perk. It's one of the best perks for any game mode in Space Marine 2. Hard Strat, Siege, it doesn't matter. 60-second equipment will save games. This is the best team perk on Tactical and probably like a top 2 in the whole game. Next perk here is a Vital Data. Standing Extremis or Terminus level enemy restores Auspex scan charge by 50%. This just gives you more Auspexes against the enemies you want them against the most here, which is just Extremis and Terminus. So putting this down, the base cooldown of an Auspex scan is like 90.9 seconds, and because of that, a 50% reduction is saving you a lot of time. So a really good perk effect here. I think it's far superior to things like Priority Targeting and Target Lock. Now, while I'm here, the equipment damage bonus here, this will not affect your grenade launcher damage at all. This only counts for equipment slot damage, so just keep that in mind. Next perk here is Precise Calibration. Enemies marked by Auspex scan take an additional 75% damage, but Auspex scan's radius is reduced by 25%. So this is the premier boss new combo in the game. You combine this perk here with Concentrated Fire, you will get a 195% damage bonus on your Auspex, which comes out to be like a 300% damage bonus almost on your Auspex with the base Auspex increase. So really powerful perk combo, and even though you lose the mark here when they leave the scanned area, that really does not matter too much because all the bosses in Space Marine 2, they have points where they will just sit there or ram a wall or just scream, and those are your opportunities to put this down. Also, your Auspex will last 60% longer here, which means your overall value on an Auspex is up just in duration, not just in a damage buff. So overall, the best perk combo for sure. Next perk here is Radiant Impact. A melee finisher additionally deals significant AoE damage in a 10-meter radius. The cooldown is 90 seconds. This perk is still god tier. It has been the same for ages now. Radiant Impact is just the top tier perk for tactical and infantry. The Signal Jammer sucks. Marked for Death got Powercraft, and this one-shots Majoris in a 10-meter radius and will save your life in boss fights, siege mode. It doesn't matter. The top tier perk, pretty much always pick it up. Now, for the prestige perk options, we do take Acuity first. Each consecutive headshot increases headshot damage by 3% up to 15%. The bonus lasts 5 seconds without a headshot. This will trigger on the Pyre Blaster and up your damage for whatever reason. They did not change that at all in this patch. Still worth taking. Just pick up Acuity because it ups your DPS. Next perk here is Skill Supplier, and Reserve increases by 15%. And the final two perks here are Resilience. Medicae stims restore 40% more HP, and Fortitude health increases by 15% because more HP prevents you from getting one shot, and more stim economy is just better for your gameplay in general. And also Spare Power is pretty good, but mainly powerful in Siege mode, and Exigency Charge sucks ass, and Second Look is not super strong with like Concentrate Fire. And that's pretty much all there is for the tactical build here, guys. Tactical is still a top tier class in Space Marine 2, absolutely. He is still a very powerful option with the Pyre Blaster, and this gun still slaps. And I still think it's the overall best option for him on the hard strats and operations, and because of that, we are building around it today, and hopefully I gave you an idea of how to actually use this build. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regards in here, I'll be talking about the best assault build for Space Marine 2 patch 13 for operations and hard stratagems. Now, this patch, the assault really didn't receive like any major changes, and because of that, his best build is still pretty much the same as well. So we're going to be using the Power Fist. Now, when it comes to the assault class, you do have a few options for the melee weapon, but in my personal opinion, I think the block Power Fist is still the best overall, just because this weapon has a ludicrous armor restoration onto your adrenaline surge charges, a ludicrous damage, and also the downside of 1+ speed here just does not matter because you pretty much only use this as a charge attack, and also this weapon saves you a ton of ammunition on the assault because it effectively works as a ranged weapon. Now, I will say, if you want to use the balanced version, you can do this. This weapon is also very strong, and the thing about the assault class is that he's actually better with balanced weapons than like pretty much every other class in the game because he can animation cancel out of his own parry animation with the jump pack dash. So anytime you use a jump pack dash in this game, you will cancel out of any animation you are currently doing, and because of that, you don't have to deal with the awkward parry window of a balanced weapon, because if you're ever gonna like miss a parry on this weapon, you just hit your Q button or whatever your class ability is and just dash out of the way. And because of that, weapons like the balanced hammer, weapons like the balanced Power Fist are very strong on him, and even stronger than I would say they are on like the Bulwark and stuff like that. Now, for the perk tree, regardless of which variant you are using, we do build it this way, starting off with the perk Perpetual Strength. Melee damage increases by 5%. Moving here to the perk Heavy Preparation. Heavy attack preparation times reduced by 30%. Applies to the following attacks: Thrust Jab, Back Fist, Hammer Hook, Back Fist 2, and Thrust Jab 2. Really, heavy attacks are all that matters on this weapon, and because of that, you pretty much always want this perk. You never really want to take the perk up here, Swift Recovery. It's just not worth taking on the Power Fist, and this one is far better. Next perk here, Perpetual Strength, again, up here into another Perpetual Strength, excuse me. Then we grab the perk here, Focus and Tension. When your health is below 30%, you will take 50% less health damage while preparing heavy attacks. This will actually make you very tanky on the charge attack, because the main playstyle of the Power Fist is that you effectively trade with enemy attacks and get your HP back off the execute. So you charge your Thrust Jab, you will one-shot them off your Thrust Jab, and whatever HP you lost, you will get back off the execute immediately. So this allows you to survive that initial charge, and then you get your HP back, so definitely pick this up. Next perk here is Tide of Battle. Power wave forward distance increases from 4 to 8 meters. This perk description is still incorrect. This actually turns your Power Fist from 10 to 20 meters on the power wave, and that means your weapon can punch enemies from 20 meters away, which turns your weapon into a ranged weapon. So definitely pick this up, one of the best perks in the whole tree, and you want this on like any setup, even like the heroic one. Next perk here is Strength of Will for a 20% range damage reduction while performing a heavy attack. Then we pick up Following Blow into the perk here combo, and the final perk Majora's Slayer for 10% more damage against Majora's, because this is nice for some breakpoints. That's pretty much all there is for the Power Fist. Now, I do want to mention a couple other options here, since I know some people have questions about that, like, do I have to use a Power Fist? Is that really the best build? I do think it's the overall best, but some top tier options do include things like the Block Power Axe or the Balance Power Axe. These are both very powerful options, and the way I would set up the Block and Balance version is with the perk tree setup like this, starting off with Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Coup de Grace. The last strike of a light combo deals 25% more damage, and then we grab Perpetual Strength and Perpetual Strength again, moving here into the perk Counterattack. The first light attack within 5 seconds after a perfect parry or perfect block deals 25% more damage, and then we grab the perk Riposte. Overhead strike damage after performing a power backstep is doubled. This is amazing on the new heroic variant, on the balance version, and the block version, because this double damage is just super damn strong in the game currently. And the next perk here is Hard Target, moving here into the perk Tactical Retreat for 25% more damage on power backstep. Then we pick up the perk Power Wave to damage more enemies with our power backstep, and the final perk is Cleaver for a 10% buff against Majora's and higher, because this is one of the best melee buff perks in the whole game. That's how I would set up the Power Axe. I'll probably like a full guide on this later, but for now, just know like these are the two best options in my opinion. Now for the Thunder Hammer here, I would say the balance and block version are once again the best version for this, because fencing has kind of fallen off in this game for a bit now outside of the Argent Edge. And for the perk tree, I would just set it up like this overall. You know, when it comes to hard strats and operations, the perk here Seismic Chain and Shattering Impact, these go off a lot more because there are just fewer enemies in siege mode, and the balance version especially takes full advantage of the double ground slam. He pretty much just like combo guys endlessly, so really good for him. If you want to skip over the perk here Offense Initiated for the perk down here after Aftershock, you can definitely do that. This is just how it's set up the Thunder Hammer, and that's pretty much all there is for the melee selection. Now for the secondary weapon, I still think the best secondary in the game is the Rate of Fire Plasma Pistol overall for the Assault class. This has top tier contested health recovery, top tier damage, great stagger for both Chaos and Tyranids. The only place this gun kind of suffers is ammo economy and damage against Zoanthropes and Neurothropes. You don't actually have a headshot multiplier on plasma weapons in this game, and because of that, the Zoanthropes especially are pretty damn irritating, but you do have a Power Fist usually on this build, and that will allow you to just one-shot them, or like damn near one-shot them out of the sky with a proper Power Wave anyways, so not too much of a downside on the Assault build here, which is why it's the best. Now for the perk tree here, we do build all ammo economy first with Plasma Collection over here into the perk Rapid Cooling, and then we go down the same tree like Perpetual Velocity for faster charge rate, Efficient Charge for better ammunition use on our charge shots, and Divine Might for more damage, because ammunition is the name of the game on this gun, and usually you're using this one to maintain your contested health, because that's what it's really strong for. And like if you're in a really shitty scenario where like you lose all of your HP for a second, being able to charge up one shot and get all of your health back, that is incredibly potent as an effect, which is why it's the overall best. Now, for the bolt pistol, you could take the heroic heavy bolt pistol or the heavy bolt pistol ammo variant. These are also quite strong on this class. It's like the second best option overall for him over the other versions, including the new bolt carbine. And I would set up the perk tree this way. But like that's pretty much all there is for the secondary on the assault class. Now, for your perk tree, I would take Overcharge first. Damage from held and charge attack melee damage increases by 25%. This is a 25% multiplicative melee damage buff to your heaviest hitting attacks on the Power Fist, Thunder Hammer, and Power Axe, so you pretty much use it on all of them. It is an incredibly potent perk effect, and I pretty much pick this up all the time. And the next perk here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies, rapid succession for crim charge by 1, the cooldown is 90 seconds. Now, in this column, you have a lot of good options. Now, you could take Defense Mechanism. This one is safer overall for that slower CHP fade, and Auxiliary Arsenal does help out your secondary weapon damage. When it comes to like pure utility, Consecutive Execution is just the best, because more equipment means more Melta Bombs, that means more Pyroblast canisters, and being able to use those over and over, that will save your life, so a really strong option here. Next perk here is Knowledge of the Enemy. Melee damage increases by 15% against Majora's and Extremis enemies. This is a pretty self-explanatory perk. It's just a flat damage increase against enemies you want to kill all the time. So a 15% melee damage buff here against Majora's and Extremis. I picked this up because it just helps me out in Space Marine 2 whenever I'm playing the game. Now, alternatively, you could take Perseverance for a 25% health damage reduction while performing a charge attack. This will function during your power fist, thrust jab, your aftershock, and stuff like that, and that does make you substantially tankier. It's just knowledge of the enemy is better for those breakpoints, and active attrition doesn't do a ton for you on this build, but there are some other ones I will be going into in the future that will help out with this perk. Next perk here is Strategic Strikes. All team members deal 20% more melee damage against Extremis and Terminus level enemies. This is still the best perk for this build on the Assault. Like, really, the Assault is a melee powerhouse in Space Marine 2, and more melee damage like this is just incredible for him, especially on a Power Fist. Next perk here is Furious Strikes. Hitting an enemy with an attack after a jump pack dash for his jump pack's ability charged by 1. The cooldown is 10 seconds. Now, this will allow you to go jump pack positive with the perk over here, Commitment, because basically what happens is this gives you a free jump pack after a perfect dodge for the jump pack dash, but because you get that free jump pack, you can then trigger this perk's effect and get another free jump pack, so you're effectively up another jump pack, which is a super powerful perk combo, and one of the reasons this is the best perk combo in the game for Assault currently. Next perk here is Wings of Flame. A jump pack dash, it damages enemies on trajectory and always works as a perfect dodge when dodging an attack. All this does is it means that the entirety of your jump pack dash, as long as you enter the perfect dodge window of an enemy during that time period, you will get a perfect dodge, trigger things like Commitment, and also just trigger free damage regardless. So really powerful perk option. You can pretty much trivialize bosses like the Carnifex all on your own with just this perk, and also this perk will damage enemies, while perks in our Prestige perk tree like Hammer of Wrath will do free damage reduction for us as well. So a really good synergy there. Next perk here is Aerial Grace. After a perfect time dodge using a jump pack dash, you will deal 30% more damage for 10 seconds. A 30% damage increase to your melee and ranged weapons here is really nice because you will be using your jump pack dodge all the time the better you get within the Assault class, and because of that, this buff will trigger quite often. Though I will say, if you want an easier perk to activate, you can take the perk here, Pride and Duty. After a finisher, ground pound deals 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This just triggers on like any execute in the game. It could be a Hormigaunt, it could be a Zangor that's like lunging at you. Doesn't matter. A 25% buff to your ground pound is established, and also a 10-second uptime is a very long uptime for like any perk effect like this. And I just take this one because I'm more comfortable with the jump pack dodges. Next perk here is Commitment. A perfect time dodge using a jump pack dash for his jump pack's ability charged by 1. This perk is incredible now. The jump pack dash will animation cancel anything you are doing, like I mentioned before. So having the opportunity to get free jump packs from this perk, that's just the best option. I mean, the other ones here, like Takeoff and Amp Ammunition, they're not god-awful. This one's just best in slot. Now for our Prestige perk selection, I do take Unyielding Oath first. When charging a ground pound, you become invulnerable to damage for 3 seconds. Now, all you have to do to trigger this perk is just hold down your ground pound for like a split second here, and that will immediately trigger the invulnerability. This gives you a ton of utility against missile can terminators, allows you to fly through things like minigun volley fire or like devourer beams and stuff like that. Really useful to keep you alive, though I will say, if you want to use Duelist for perfect block, this does make it easier to like block with your power fist on the block variant, and the perfect parry for fencing and balance is currently bugged on this perk, at least on the heavy class. I'm not sure if it is on the Assault, but either way, there are some reports of that, so just keep that in mind. Final perks to take here are Fortitude for a health increase of 15%, and the final perk is Hammer of Wrath. After using your jump pack, you take 30% less range damage and don't lose control of heavy hits and cannot be knocked back for 15 seconds. This is a god tier perk effect. A 30% range damage reduction for just using your jump pack at all is incredible. Like, that's just free damage reduction and no knockback for 15 seconds. That is an eternity in this game, and this perk has completely power crept adrenaline boost up here, and that's pretty much all there is for the best Assault setup, guys. And you know, I have to say, the Assault class is really a top tier class in all game modes currently. This guy bodies operations, he bodies siege mode, he bodies hard strats. You really cannot go wrong on this class like Wings of Flame or Zealous Blow, and hopefully this guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regardsman here, and I'll be talking about the best Vanguard Hey guys, first regardsman here, so I'll be talking about the best build for Vanguard, Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, the Vanguard is getting some buffs in the future to his like grapnel targeting and stuff like that, but for now, his builds have remained mostly the same, so we'll be going over those today and just showing you the best options on the Vanguard class. So first up, we have the Melter Rifle. Now, the Melter Rifle is still, in my opinion, the overall best option on the Vanguard. Other great options include stuff like the Headshot Multiplier version on the Oculus, or the Automatic Carbine variant built like this. They're all pretty good on him, or even the Heroic Instigator is quite strong, but the reason I prefer for the Melter Rifle is that number one, this one has great stagger, great healing, and great armor regen, on top of the fact that it also solves the horrific ammo economy of this class with perks like Decisive Reload. Performing a finisher on a Majoris or higher enemy with this weapon restores ammo by 1. This will trigger on any finisher as long as your Melter Rifle is equipped, so really easy to pull off. So as long as you do that, make sure to swap to your Melta during any finisher on a Majoris or higher, and you will get 1 ammunition back. That is super valuable and actually comes out to way more than you'd expect. Now, the next perk here is Rapid Health. When your health's below 30%, killing 7 enemies rapid succession restores health by 10%. This is a very powerful perk that gets you above those like one-shot breakpoints at low HP, and also very easy to pull off on a Melter Rifle because it's a flippin' Melter Rifle. So, next thing here is Trick Shot. Killing 5 enemies with 1 shot restores 1 armor segment, that the cooldown is 30 seconds. Getting armor back for one-shotting 5 guys on a Melter Rifle for hard strats and operations is very easy to do, because Cultists will die in 1 shot, Hormigons die in 1 shot, Zangors that don't have shields will die in 1 shot, and also stuff like Spore Mines, so really easy to trigger this on a 30-second cooldown. Next perk here is Great Might, over here into the perk Divine Might for 10% damage increase. And then I pick up the perk Extended Magazine into the perk here First Shot, and then the final 2 perks are Retaliation for 25% more damage on a perk time dodge, and the final perk is Perpetual Fire for a fire rate increase of 10%. That's really all you need to build for like any variant of the Melter Rifle. Now, as far as variants for the Melter Rifle are concerned though, I do take the range version over the magazine capacity version on the operations mode, and mainly because your ammo economy is pretty strong on this, like I mentioned before, and you really do not need to like take the extra magazine capacity and stuff like that here, because this one actually has a way better damage fall off than this one does, and because of that you're gonna have an easier time against things like shield Zangors, or excuse me, the floating Zangors, like Zangor Enlightened, and also stuff like Zoanthropes, which can get pulverized by this actually fairly easily. And that's pretty much all there is for the primary weapon here. Now for our secondary weapon, I do take the Retribution's Bequest Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol. The main reason we take this is because the Vanguard can set up gunstrike opportunities to trigger perk effects like Tactical Prowess by basically using the power racks to parry an enemy, gunstrike them off the power wave, and immediately put them into that breakpoint range so we can grapple onto them and trigger this perk effect we'll get into later on top of Zone of Impact. So that's why I do prefer this one, because currently this has the highest gunstrike damage on Vanguard. And for the perk tree here, we do pick up the perk Divine Might first, all the way down the bottom tree into things like Death Strike, which says after killing a Majoris or higher in melee combat, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This will trigger off of a melee finisher, not just a melee kill, so keep that in mind. All you have to do to make sure this actually happens is make sure your weapon is equipped. And the only downside here, or negative synergy, is that to trigger this perk effect, you can't swap off your gun, and you have to have the gun equipped, which means you are not going to be able to get the perk trigger of Decisive Reload here simultaneously, so you have to choose there. So like that does kind of suck, but still this buff is very strong. Next perk here is Great Might, over here into the perk Strong Start, and the final perk here before we get into the top row is Able Damage. After using class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. This perk effect is very strong in both the Vanguard and Assault class, because you actually use your class ability all the time on these guys. They have great CDR perks like Combat Readiness, Inner Fire, and stuff like that, and that allows you to just get way more triggers off of this perk effect than say a Tactical does, so I definitely pick it up here. Next perk here is Home Precision for a 50% reduction in weapon spread while hip firing, and then we go up here into Gunstrike Reload, and the final perk here, Tactical Precision, which says headshots deal 20% more damage, and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%, because headshot damage is still the best overall option on this weapon. And also, the heroic perk effect here is called No Help Is Coming, for those of you who are unaware. This one says shooting an enemy could lead stream stats effect, stops with punk reinforcements, and headshots will kill in 1 shot. So this actually saves you a lot of ammo on Absolute and above, because really in this game, whenever you stop a reinforcement calling enemy on Absolute or like lethal difficulty and hard strats, they will go enraged, and this will kind of like circumvent that and save you not only an entire horde, but also just save you a full heal from an enraged enemy. So a really good perk effect. Now for the melee weapon, you actually have a couple options here. So number one, the balanced power axe. This one is very strong, and the reason I like this on the Vanguard in general is because the power axe, the power backstep of this weapon, it will move you out of range to actually grapnel back into an enemy with your grapnel launcher. The grapnel launcher targeting has a 10-meter range requirement, which feels awful in this game. This one does kind of help mitigate that a bit, and even though you can still do that with a block axe, the balanced weapon allows you to get your gun strike as well, which can trigger that breakpoint or a 33% tactical prowess finisher we'll get into later. So just keep that in mind. Both the block, balance, fencing, they can all do that. It's just like up to you which one you prefer. And as far as the balance and block version are concerned, I would set them up this way, with perpetual strength first, moving here into the perk coup de grace. The last strike of a light combo deals 25% more damage. Then I pick up the perk here, Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again. Moving here into the perk Counterattack. The first light attack within 5 seconds after a perfect parry or perfect block deals 25% more damage. Then we go down here into the perk Riposte. Overhead strike damage after performing a power backstep is doubled. So a neat effect of the power axe is that you can use your power backstep and like move your camera to overhead strike with the double riposte damage on a different enemy instead. So you actually have a lot of opportunities to use this. So really strong perk effect, and a double damage on your overhead is very strong. And the next perk here is Hard Target. Moving here to the perk Tactical Retreat. Power Backstep deals 25% more damage. This helps you hit breakpoints, like actually get that 33% HP on an enemy for your tactical prowess trigger, so really good here. Then we go up here into the perk Power Wave. Power Backstep Wave damages more enemies. This one is just a straight buff to your Power Wave. It's going to hit more enemies, and also in patch 13, they did fix the Power Wave to hit more enemies like it was supposed to do anyway, so this perk is even better. Next perk here is Cleaver for a 10% buff against Majoris and higher enemies, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe. Now, alternatively, you could pick up the Chain Sword and build it like this on like the new White Scars variant, or the block version, like really anyone you want, and the Argent Edge is still a very potent effect on this class as well. It's just that the block axe and balance axe, these ones do the most damage, and that power backstep movement, that does help you the most as a Vanguard like class synergy. Now, for the fencing option on the Power Axe, you can set up a little bit differently. The only major change I would make here is going down the top tree like this to pick up things like Power Strike, because this is just a very potent effect on this class in general. You also pick up like things like Endless Slash, but this one says Gun Strike from Power Stance deals 20% more damage. This just gives you more gun strike damage, and the actual damage of your power axe here on the fencing version is not that strong, so having this breakpoint here can definitely help you out sometimes on like harder to hit enemies and trigger this 33% threshold. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe tree. Now for our perk tree selection on the Vanguard class here, we do take the perk Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. No knockback in Space Marine 2 will just save your life. The Vanguard is no different, and having this will work for gun strikes, it'll work for things like light attacks on any enemy, and if you're unaware of how no knockback works in Space Marine 2, any attack that would knock you over will only stagger you, and any attack that would stagger you will do nothing instead. So a really powerful effect to prevent stun locks, and also the perks in this column kind of suck. Like Melee Mastery, this perk effect is not remotely as strong as it should be. It's not a multiplicative buff like it's supposed to be. This one is really closer to like a 10% buff on your standard issue weapon, and the perk up here, Moving Target, killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 10%. A 30-meter distance requirement sucks, so just pick this perk up instead. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction is incredible in Space Marine 2, and this will make you very tanky on this class because you can stack this with perk effects over here, like Thrill of the Fight, for another 20% health damage reduction for a 45% total, which is really strong. Like, that's a pretty substantial amount of damage reduction, and this class already has a ton of armor regen down here with stuff like Launch Restoration and Restoration, so looping back into this perk on Armor Break is really easy to do, and you also have a 15% starting HP increase here too, so a 45% HP damage reduction on top of that is a very potent effect. Now the next perk we take here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now equipment recharge in Space Marine 2 is just a god tier effect. 90-second melt-a-bombs, 90-second crack grenades, it does not matter. These things can save your games in any game mode, so you pretty much always pick this perk effect up. And the next perk here is Unmaziel. Melee finishers of Extremis or Terminus level enemies additionally restore health by 30% for any team member. This is just the best overall perk for like 99% of players, in my opinion. Healing is just a really powerful effect for newer players and experienced players, and Inner Fire is also a very strong perk effect for CDR, but like when it comes to the majority of the player base, I think you should just take this perk. I think you'll feel way better using this one, and for the most part, it'll make your games go way smoother on like hard strats, siege mode, and operations. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. This is a very strong perk. You know, a 40% range damage reduction here is really nice to have, but I will say the entire column here is pretty decent. Like Shockwave can clear out Spore Mines, and the Bramble collateral damage will help you just deal more direct damage to enemies, and also the Grapnel Launcher Diving Kick. This will scale up with difficulties. This one also benefits from that, though I do kind of prefer Restless Fortitude just because it's a catch-all for like both Chaos and Tyranids. And also, this perk will trigger off of grapnel finishers, so it's even better with the perk combo we'll get into in a second. Next perk here is Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with the grapnel launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. Now, this perk, the description does not properly like express how much damage you actually do. This one will chunk Majora's HP in like an AoE zone. It is a super powerful option on the Vanguard. By far like the fundamental perk combo for this class, because you take Zone of Impact, you take the perk here, Tactical Prowess, that says Grapnel Launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but also on those who have less than 33% health, except Terminus level, and performing a finisher with the Grapnel Launcher restores its charge. So, really good perk combo with this, because you kind of see like the whole flow chart here, where you get a guy low, you grapple to them, you trigger the AoE, you get all the guys around him low, you grapple to those guys, and then you trigger this perk, and you get another AoE over and over and over again. In fact, this is not only like the best horde clear on this class outside of Melt-A-Bomb spam, it is also like the best boss damage at times for certain scenarios, so definitely pick this up. If you're going for like a top tier Vanguard build, this is just the only like right option in my opinion. There are also like good perks down here like Tenacity, and also Tip of the Spear is okay, but Zone of Impact is just kind of in a league of its own. Next perk here is Thrill of the Fight. After a per time parry, block, or dodge, you will take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This is a free damage reduction in my opinion. This will trigger on every single defensive mechanic in the game, parry, block, and dodge, and because of that, a 20% health damage reduction is going off all the time. And also, unlike a lot of the other perk effects in Space Marine 2, this one will trigger over and over, even if the duration is not up yet. What I mean by that is, if you have 3 seconds of the 5 seconds left, and you get another perfect parry or block, you will trigger this again for the full 5 seconds, so really easy to keep up the entire time. Next perk here you can take though is Combat Readiness. Grapnel Launcher recharges 20% faster, because if you are taking the healing perk here, this one can help you get back those grapnels a bit faster if you like miss Tactical Prowess for whatever reason. And that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree here. Now for our prestige perk list, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more range damage. Moving here into the perk Fortitude for health increase of 15%. And then we pick up the perk here, Launch Restoration. Using the grapnel launcher restores an armor segment. This perk is like super underrated sometimes. This does so much work for you, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0, even from bosses, and because of that, getting 1 armor back while grappling into like a Carnifex, that means that they just can't do any damage to you directly to your HP on their next attack in melee, which is a pretty powerful option. And also, armor will benefit from range damage reduction perks, which means you're going in, you're triggering the armor restoration here, and you're also triggering the perk here for 40% range damage reduction, which is incredible. So like, you're tankier against Rubric Marines, you're tankier against Devourers and stuff like that, and melee enemies can't do any damage to you for their first attack no matter what, so definitely pick this up all the time. Next perk here is Restoration. Killing 7 enemies rapid session restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This one is just free armor regen on a cooldown. I mean, it's not as good as Launch Restoration in my opinion, so if you want to swap this out for like Indomitable Spirit or Well Equipped, you could, but more armor is always better in my opinion, so I picked this one up as well. And that's pretty much all there is for the Vanguard build here. You know, the Vanguard is in a pretty okay spot. Like, the only thing he's really struggling with is like boss damage, but as far as general gameplay goes, this class is in a perfectly fine spot. I know we talked about him being like the weakest class in Space Marine 2 currently, but that's to say he's like the 7th best class. He's still very potent in hard strats and very potent in operations. He can still fit right into siege mode builds, so hopefully this build guide helped you. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regards in here, and I'll be talking about the best Bulwark build for Space Marine 2 patch 13 for operations and hard stratagems. Now, this class didn't really receive any major changes this time around, so he is still one of the strongest classes in the entire game, and the Power Fist is still his best in slot weapon, in my opinion. Now, for the variant of the Power Fist, I think block weapons are overall the best on the Bulwark currently for a couple reasons. Number one, the 0-frame startup of block weapons. These really benefit you with the perks like Intimidating Aura. This one says a perfect time parry deals AoE damage within a 5-meter radius, so the cooldown is 5 seconds. This will also function on a perfect block, not just a perfect parry, even though the description doesn't tell you. That was changed back in like patch 8, and because of that, Intimidating Aura is very strong with block weapons, and block weapons also have a 60% range damage reduction buff every time you get a perfect block for 2 seconds, and that stacks very well with your damage reduction perks like Steel Within and your starting HP increase of 30%. Now, the other option here is obviously the Balanced Power Fist. This one is very strong, but when it comes to balanced weapons, I actually think these are way better on the Assault class than the Bulwark, for the first reason being that the Assault class can just animation cancel out of his balanced parry window whenever he wants, because the animation cancel of the Assault with the jump pack dash here, this will function mid parry. The animation cancel on the Bulwark class, this requires you to shield block, and because of that, you are not able to do an animation cancel in the middle of your parry, so you cannot escape the awkward windup of a balanced parry window. They aren't bad on him by any means. I think block is just better for that reason, because he just likes that 0-frame startup. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do start with the perk here, Perpetual Strength, moving here into the perk Heavy Preparation. Heavy attack preparation times reduced by 30%. You know, heavy attacks are pretty much all you want on the Power Fist in general, so you always want this perk. A 30% reduction in preparation time is tremendous, and honestly, the top tree practically doesn't exist because of this. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, up here to Perpetual Strength again. And then I pick up the perk here, Focused Intention. When your health is below 30%, you will take 50% less health damage while preparing heavy attacks. This is another tremendous damage reduction perk. The way that Space Marine 2 works is that below 25% HP in this game, you will get a ramping damage reduction to like absurd levels, and that will stack with the damage reduction from this that goes up to 50% on top of your other damage reduction, like the Steel Within perk or Conviction, on top of the fact you have a 30% increased starting HP, which means your effective HP at low HP values is already kind of ridiculous. So a really strong perk for him, and because of that, you are able to trade with the Power Fist very easily, because the way you get HP back on a Power Fist is by charging up your attack, one-shotting the weapon, or excuse me, one-shotting the enemy when you actually let go of your charge attack, even though you took damage during that charge attack, and then you get all your HP back off the execute. So top tier perk, pretty much always pick this up. Next perk here is Tide of Battle. Power wave forward distance increases from 4 to 8 meters. This is actually an increase from 10 to 20 meters, which basically turns your Power Fist into a ranged weapon. This is one of the reasons it is so strong on the Bulwark and Assault, especially, even though it's like, you know, the only class it's on. But for the point of this guide, I'm trying to say that we have only a secondary option, and because of that, having a Power Fist to be a ranged weapon as our primary is super useful in saving ammunition, and you are able to do things like punch Neurothropes and Zoanthropes out of the sky, on top of stuff like Enlightened Zangors. So a really good option here, and Tide of Battle is a must pick. Next perk here is Following Blow, down here into the perk Strength of Will. Then I grab the perk here Combo, and the final perk Majora Slayer for a 10% melee damage buff against Majora's level enemies, because sometimes this helps out with breakpoints. And that's pretty much all there is for the Power Fist. But I will say, the other option you can take here is something like the Block Power Axe. The Block Power Axe is very strong on the Bulwark class as well, because you can animation cancel out of your Power Wave immediately into things like a Shield Bash, or just go back into other attacks, and because of that, his block synergy here is very strong, and honestly the Block Power Axe in general is a top tier weapon, really only in second place to things like the Block Power Fist. Now, for the perk tree on this, it's pretty much the same as all the other builds for the Block Power Axe. You just go full damage with things like Perpetual Strength into Coup de Grace, and then you pick up stuff like Repose for double overhead damage on a Power Backstep Strike, and then we also go into Tactical Retreat for more Power Backstep damage. The perk up here, Power Wave, and the final perk, Cleaver, because 10% more damage against Majora's and higher is super valuable for you. And if you really want to take like a Thunder Hammer for whatever reason, I guess you could, but the Thunder Hammer is like the de facto worst weapon on the Bulwark class right now, because you lose your shield, and your shield is like the source of your animation cancel and your range blocking, and that's a huge portion of your fastest power level. Though, you know, one day I'll probably make a guide for both this and the Power Sword, but for now, I would stick with the Block Power Fist and the Block Power Axe here, and maybe whatever you want to use. Now, for the secondary option, I do take the Rate of Fire Plasma Pistol. This is still the best secondary in the game, in my opinion. It has the best CHP recovery, it has a great stagger, pretty shit ammo economy, but it makes up for that with pretty good damage. And even though you do lose out on that ammo economy, the perk tree we set up with this option here does kind of circumvent that a little bit with stuff like Plasma Collection, Efficient Charge, Perpetual Velocity for a shot charge rate, and also Divine Might for more damage down here. So a really strong option in general, though if you want to take like the brand new Bolt Carbine, you could do that. I would set up this way on like any setup, and for the Heavy Bolt Pistol, I'd probably set up something like this or go up here through Discipline, but that's all up to you. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now, for the perk tree here. The first perk we take here is Intimidating Aura. A per time parry deals AoE damage in a 5-meter radius. Cooldown is 5 seconds. This is one of the best damage perks on the defense in the entire game, and this will put out around 200 damage per perfect parry. And to put that in perspective, a Sword Warrior on absolute difficulty will have 308 HP. You're doing over half a warrior's HP with a single perfect parry, which is kind of insane. It also works a perfect block, like I mentioned before. So as far as damage goes, you can mop up bosses like the Vortex Beast, Hellbrute, Carnifex just with this perk. So you pretty much always take this on like a top tier build. Though I will say an easier option is Conviction, because stacking Conviction on top of Steel Within, on top of Scramble Targeting, and your starting HP increase, you're practically unkillable, but you do lose a bit of damage. Next perk here is Scramble Targeting. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, it will take 25% less damage from range attacks. This is just a free range damage reduction. Being surrounded by 5 or more enemies happens all the time in the Operations and Hard strats, and especially Siege. Though I will say, if you want to take Shock and Awe and like Emergency Countermeasure, you can do that. You will get a lot of damage for free off of this. Armor of Contempt is not very strong. Like, the damage put out by this is not very powerful at all. A lot of people think it is, but it's a super overrated perk. But Shock and Awe and Scramble Targeting here, they're the overall best option. Next perk here is Steel Within. When your health's less than 50%, you will take 30% less health damage. This is like the major damage reduction enabler for most builds on the Bulwark class and Intimidating Aura. Without this, you are substantially squishier. It's not to say like you're super squishy, because you do have other options like Focus Restoration to give you armor back, like your starting HP increase of 30% increase here. Yeah, a little redundant, but the point is that Steel Within on top of that base HP increase will make you substantially tankier. And if you're not taking Conviction, I would definitely take this perk, especially if you're fighting Chaos, because they don't give you as many gun strikes for armor reinforcement, and armor reinforcement I'd really only take against Pyramid faction normally. At least like it's definitely best there. Now, as far as defensive advantage goes, this perk is not very strong at all. A 30-second cooldown on a 5-second shock area is pretty shit, and you're better off just taking the 45-second cooldown Emergency Countermeasure and stacking that with Shock and Awe, which is much better, and you're way less squishy. Next perk here is Focus Restoration. Every 30 seconds, all team members automatically restore 1 armor segment. This is a super underrated perk in Space Marine 2. 1 armor to your entire team every 30 seconds comes out to so much free damage reduction. Armor in Space Marine 2 will damage cap all the time against melee attacks. So what I mean by that is any melee attack in Space Marine 2 will do 0 damage if you have any amount of armor left, and that includes bosses. So 1 armor segment to a tactical, that's the difference between them losing like 70% of their HP and getting knocked over, or especially a Techmarine, and just living. So a really powerful perk, and also helps you out as well. Next perk here is Purity of Purpose. The banner deals damage over time to enemies with zero effect. This perk will put out a ton of free damage for you. This will wipe out Minoris, deal significant damage to Majoris, Extremis, and even bosses. And as far as the rest of this column is concerned, rapid regeneration is okay. The banner restores armor 300% faster, but a duration is reduced by 10%, or excuse me, not 10%, 10 seconds, which actually cuts your banner time in half. And cutting your banner time in half, guys, that shit sucks. So the banner effect of like armor restoration being faster, that's pretty good for like range attacks, but you're just way better off with Purity of Purpose, because this one just puts out damage for free on top of like giving you the full benefit of your normal banner. Next perk here is Invigorating Icon. When the banner is activated, all team members regain maximum contested health, but it recharges 50% slower. This perk is the best for like 99% of players. Okay, Concussive Force is technically more damage on the Shield Bash, but this is the best DPS build for the Bulwark in the entire game. But for like, you know, practical gameplay, I would just say take the healing perk. You know, a 50% slower recharge may kind of suck to play with, but it is a very powerful perk option. You know, if you really don't want the healing, you just want to use your banner, and you don't really feel comfortable with the Shield Bash animation cancel, you can just take Glory Shield, because this perk is also great. Next perk here is Merciless Resolve. After a Shield Bash, Shield Rush, or Thunderhammer Pommel Smash, melee damage increases by 15%, you don't lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. This just gives you no knockback for free on just shield bashing the air. You pretty much take this on every build. Rejuvenating effect is pretty good, and so is inspiration. It's just this one is definitely better. If you really don't want to take this perk, if you want that like a free revive on a banner, you just take armor advance to give you back like all of your no knockback when you have armor remaining, because this is also a very strong pick. And speaking of your signature perks, we are going to go to the next one here, which is defensive mastery. A perfect time parry or block instantly incapacitates a Majora's or extremis level enemy. The cooldown is 90 seconds. In my opinion, this is the best signature perk currently for the Bulwark. Being able to one-shot an extremis in the middle of a boss fight is life-saving. This perk sounds way worse than it actually is, because in practice, it just removes threats for you automatically for free. The only negative perk interaction here is that if you get the trigger of this on top of an intimidating aura trigger, you'll just straight up one-shot the guy with no option to execute the extremis or Majora's. That can lose you HP sometimes, but losing HP is also not too bad on the Bulwark class because you're so damn tanky. So for the most part, this definitely saves your life and saves you a ton of time killing bosses and just wiping out free extremis spawns. Now, alternatively, you could take Armor Advance or Mercy Countermeasure. If you take this one, I would stack it with Shock and Awe, because this 25% damage buff is very noticeable, and also this is pretty much like lets you be a Squid Inking with like a Mercy Countermeasure for a Shock Nade at your, place of origin. You know what I'm saying? Point is, free Shock Nade, and those are my opinions on the Signature perk. Now, for the Prestige perk options, I do take Resilience first, Medicate Singers for 40% more HP. For Operations and hard strats, I really don't think you need Auxiliary Reload. You're not getting a ton back from this anyways, and the Mag Extremis in the Operations is not low, it's just not high enough that I really feel like I want this on a super meta build, but if you want to take this, you definitely can. Next perk, which I would take all the time, is Overcharge. Held and charge attack damage increases by 20%. This just buffs your damage on your thrust jab, on your power fist relentlessly. It is ridiculous how awesome this perk actually is. It's a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff to the heaviest hitting attacks on both the power axe and power fist. You just take this all the time, especially since it's in a prestige perk tree. Final perks here are Powerful Shot for range damage increase of 20%, and Masterful Defense for ability charge being restored by 1% for every blocked range attack. With this perk, you will pretty much get a banner back almost entirely just off of a single minigun Terminator. A really powerful option for you, so if you have a shield, you just take this perk, and that's pretty much all there is for the Prestige perk tree. And that's pretty much all there is for this build guide. I do think this is the strongest build on the Bulwark overall currently for ops and hard strats, and honestly, this is pretty interchangeable with Siege mode as well. The Bulwark is pretty nuts with most setups that take any type of perk combo like this. You have a pretty easy time in most content in the game, so hopefully this build guide helped you. Hey guys, first regards right here, I'll be talking about the best sniper build for Space Marine 2 patch 13 for operations and hard stratagems. Now, the sniper is in a pretty strong spot at the moment. He has a great synergy with melee weapons like the Power Gladius and Arch and Edge, on top of a ton of powerful primary options. I'll be going over some of his best options for this, and what I think is his strongest option overall. So, number one, what is the best primary on the sniper class currently? In my opinion, that is the Heroic Bolt Sniper Rifle. Even though this one does struggle against Chaos a bit, if you hit every single headshot with the replenishing hit perk, you have effectively infinite ammo with a times 20 headshot multiplier. Now, the reason this is times 20 now instead of times 10 from last patch is because they did change around the body shot damage and how headshot damage works in this game. But that being said, this gun still does a stupid amount of damage on the headshot, and it's still the best option overall if you hit every single headshot. But obviously not everyone can do that, so we'll give a different option in a second. But first up, for the perk tree setup here, we do start off with the perk Remote Threat first. Enemies at a distance of more than 25 meters take 20% more damage. This helps you up some breakpoints against Majoras and enemies like that, and also just ups your damage against bosses like the Neurothrope, so a really good option. It also moves into the next perk here, which is Survival Instinct. When your health is below 30%, you will deal 25% more damage. On the sniper class, if you take the perk here, Purification, to get CHP back on a camo cloak every single time, you can just sit at a low HP value and be pretty much okay as long as you manage your camo cloak properly and have this 25% damage buff up all the time. So that's a little risky, but something you can do, and one of the reasons this perk is so strong. Next perk here is Adamantine Grip, up here into the perk Finisher Reload. After a finisher, the equipped weapon instantaneously reloads. This perk is super useful because you'll be doing a finisher on every class in this game. And the next perk here is Unwavering Resolve. After reloading while having low ammo, damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. This doesn't come into play all the time, but also the perk down here will pretty much never come into play because you'll be getting your full reload off of a finisher all the time anyways, so just pick this one up. Next perk here is Headhunter for 10% more headshot damage. Down here into the perk Increased Capacity. Then we go through here into the perk Strong Start for 25% more damage on the first round and magazine. So because you're reloading your shot directly into your magazine from the heroic perk effect here, replenishing hit, you are pretty much having this 25% damage buff up all the time if you maintain your shots. So a really good perk effect here, and also the one down here works the same way, but it's a little more risky because you have to have the last round in your magazine. Next perk here is Cleaving Fire, and the final perk is Recoupment. Killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a headshot of this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restore like this in Space Marine 2 is a very powerful effect. So the way you take damage in this game from ranged enemies like Devourers and even Rubric Marines is a lot of the time you will be shot after you kill the guy, and like a little wavering delay of his Devourer shots will smack your face. You'll lose HP. It feels awful, and not having any armor there, that means you're taking chip damage no matter what. So this helps you avoid chip damage by, on your kill, when you would normally trade on like some range damage, you'll have a little bit of armor to absorb that for you. And that's pretty much all there is for the Bolt Sniper Rifle. Now, other options, if you don't feel comfortable with this weapon, include stuff like the Heroic Instigator. This weapon is very powerful. It has a 5-round burst as opposed to the standard relic tier options for the Instigator Bolt Carbine, and because of that, your damage is kind of tremendous on top of the highest base firepower of any variant. So for the most part, this is just the best Instigator Carbine. I would set it up this way for like all headshot damage on the top tree, because as long as you have your Prestige perk or Versatile Precision, you really don't struggle in ammo economy too much, and Increased Capacity will also help out with that quite a bit. So we go down here into Divine Might, Increased Capacity into the perk Great Might, Recoupment again, Tactical Precision for more headshot damage. I'll be able to lose some body shot damage, and headshot damage is really all that matters on this gun and the sniper class especially. And the final perks are Headhunter into the perk Rapid Health. So that's how we set up this one. And also I want to say one more thing. The perk effect here, Targeted Shot, the first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. This does have a lingering effect to actually give you the full 75% buff on the first 5 rounds of a Bolt Carbine and the first 5 rounds of your Instigator Carbine. So it still takes effect there, so if you want to use that, you definitely can. Now, the other option I would talk about here is the Last Fusel. This is one of the most popular weapons in Space Marine 2's history. Pretty much all the variants are pretty good. I prefer the rate of fire personally because it just feels the best, but it does run into some ammo economy problems. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do build it with Perpetual Velocity first for a faster charge rate, into the perk Adamant Velocity, then we pick up Headhunter, Beam Amplification, going here to the perk Perpetual Velocity again, and then pick up Charging Immunity up into the perk Headhunter, then we go through Rapid Health, or excuse me, it's just Instant Health. It's a little bit different because this one says when your health's below 30%, killing 3 enemies or more with 1 shot restores health by 5%. So basically you can like barrel stuff, cultists and stuff like that, and just get your HP back. Rapid Health is on 7 kills in a session. Sorry for like the confusion there. Next perk here is Headhunter, and the final perk is Increased Capacity. Now, if you want to skip over the Amplification perk here and just take Recoupment instead, you can definitely do that. Or if you want more ammo, you could also take this perk down here with Increased Capacity, or you could skip both of like this perk here and just go for the either way, you'll be fine, and the Last Fusel is a very strong option. If you want like full ammo, you can just take the ammo reserve option. Just keep in mind that this gun does charge significantly lower, and that's pretty much all there is for the primary selection. Now for our secondary option, the best option on the sniper class, in my opinion, is either the standard heroic bolt pistol or like the firepower variant here. The thing is, if you're using a single shot weapon like the Last Fusel or the weapon over here at the heroic bolt sniper, or even a stalker bolt rifle, being able to trigger a pattern of excellence more easily will help you out a ton, because this is like one of the best perks in the entire game. So for like a super meta build, you will be taking this all the time, and because of that, I think it's better to have the 3-round burst on the heroic bolt pistol, or just like a really rapid firing thing here like the bolt pistol with like the firepower variant. Now as far as the perk tree setup goes, I set it up this way, and if you're fighting chaos and you're using things like the heroic instigator, I would say you can definitely take a heavy bolt pistol, or more importantly an inferno pistol. The Inferno pistol in patch 13 and patch 12 is very strong. It is really good for staggering the minigun terminators, it is really good for staggering the chaos spawn, and because of that, it does does a ton of work for you. And for the perk tree, I do set up this way, like the full range down here into ammo capacity, and trick shot for armor regen and extra shot in the magazine. I just take the ammo reserve option because the ammunition economy is like the best part of this gun in the first place, and the rate of fire version is okay, but the more secondary ammo you have on a sniper class, the more triggers of versatile precision you can actually get to get back your primary ammo. So a really good option there. I do want to mention this perk here does not work with the heroic bolt sniper for anyone that's still not aware. Now for the melee selection on the sniper class, you really just have two great options, the Power Gladius and the Argent Edge Heroic Knife. So when it comes to the Argent Edge, this is your best defensive tool like all the other classes. You have the heroic perk effect here, Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. Now instantaneously staggering a Ravener on a triple hit or a melee Terminator on a triple hit, that is super useful in this game for like any build, but especially for the sniper class, because this way you can just go for like full range damage on a build, pick up things like targeted shot, and also take things like exacting focus for 20% more range damage for 10 seconds after a gun strike, since you get gun strikes all the time on this weapon. Now the other option here is the Power Gladius, because the heroic perk effect is called Agile Strike. After a perfect dodge, the next melee attack deals 120% more damage and can be stacked up to 3 times. Now beyond this massive damage increase, it also has a lingering effect for 1 second after the first hit, and this will stack for like ridiculous amounts of boss damage if you take this perk on top of things like Tactical Ambush and stuff like Melee Mastery and Adaptability. When you go into Cloak, you will do like over 500% bonus melee damage. You'll chunk like 70% of a boss's HP. It is ridiculous. This class is very good for single target damage, and this is a huge reason why. And also, the 7+ speed here is quite good for horde control. As far as how you should set this weapon up, I would pretty much set it up the same way on both of them, just for like ease of use. First, we take the perk down here, Perpetual Strength, for a 5% melee damage buff. Then I pick up the perk Kinetic Energy. Each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3% up to 30% for 3 seconds. This one is definitely better on the Power Gladius because you have a 7+ speed, so it is easier to chain those heavies. Though I will say the Argent Edge, even with a 3+ speed, is not too bad with this. It's just better on the Power Gladius. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, over here into the perk Heavy Onslaught for 15% bonus heavy attack damage. This perk will affect the damage of your Shadow Stab down here, and Shadow Stab is the most important attack for single target damage, so definitely grab these two together for like both of these. And the next perk here is Reeling Blow, up here into the perk Tide of Battle. And then I pick up the perk Shoulder Bash. This just changes your lunging attack to a shoulder bash instead of the distance stab, but the recovery here feels way better. I much prefer this Shoulder Bash over the standard option, though I do want to say if you want to skip this perk, you can take 5% more melee damage here if you want to do that, but it is up to you. The final perk is also up to you, because I take Terminus level damage, because Terminus enemies, they just get nuked by this knife, and really any Power Gladius build. And also you could take Extremis Slayer if you really want to, but for the most part, I think this is like the best setup, or a very useful setup for both of these weapons. And I would kind of avoid the Relic Tier options right now, because at the moment, they've kind of been power crept. Now for the Sniper's perk tree, I do take the perk Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majora's and higher enemies. This is a 20% multiplicative melee damage increase. I would take this on both the Argent Edge and Power Gladius because it is that good, and Block Break is okay, this one's just better. Next perk here is Adaptability. Reloading while having low ammo or manually activating your Camo Cloak increases melee damage by 25% for 10 seconds. I would mainly take this on a Power Gladius. If you're taking something else, I would probably take Vantage Point or even High Capacity. Both of these are okay. I will say the damage buff from Vantage Point now for remaining stationary is pretty easy to pull off with Lingering Concealment, because the Camo Cloak got buffed to have a 90-second base cooldown instead of 125 like a few patches ago, so really good for him now, and Vantage Point is actually pretty good. Next perk here is really up to the gun you're using, so Iron Grip is for both sniper rifles, Dexterous Hands is for bolt carbines, and Lethal Efficiency is for the last fusel, so if you're taking these, you just, pick depending on your gun. Next perk here is Marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all team members. I take this for more headshot damage to hit some breakpoints, though I will say the classic combo of like Squad Renewal down here into Purification for CHP recovery is better, but Marksmanship does give you more damage, so if you're going for like pure damage on your ranged weapon, this is overall superior. Next perk here is either Targeted Shot or the perk down here, Tactical Ambush. If you're using a melee weapon like Power Gladius, you take Tactical Ambush. If you're using the Argent Edge, you take Targeted Shot, and that's pretty much all there is to it. You always skip over Guardian Protocol because this perk sucks ass, and these are really the only ones you actually actually need. Next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. Now, because of the base cooldown of 90 on the Camo Cloak, you can actually start your cooldown very quickly and just trigger Lingering Concealment for free, basically. Super powerful perk option. And another great option for you is the Persistence perk. This gives you a 20% health damage reduction and no knockback for 10 seconds. You know, I do kind of prefer this on a Power Gladius sometimes, but you know, both of these are very strong, and the only one I really avoid is Ambush. The final perk I take pretty much all the time is Pattern of Excellence, performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This perk is god tier. 30-second Melta Bombs, Pyroblast canisters, you name it, they will save your life. And honestly, the only downside of the Sniper class is that you don't have a ton of horde clear outside of like your equipment, and getting back 30-second Melta Bombs makes that way easier. So you definitely want this perk. That's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now, for my prestige perk options, I do take Emperor's Grace first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Now, invulnerability in Space Marine 2 works for damage and knockback, so because of that, this is by far the best option. Emperor's Grace is just a peak perk and like allows you to just hit your Camo Cloak once and never die, basically, especially with things like Purification, so definitely pick this one up. Next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This is another top tier perk. It may not work with the Heroic Bolt Sniper, but every other gun on the Sniper class benefits from this, so you pretty much always take it. And the final perks I take are things like Conviction, because this makes you substantially tankier. This is a must pick in my opinion, and the final perk is kind of up to you, and you can take Exacting Focus or Indomitable Spirit. And that's pretty much all there is for the Sniper guide here. Hopefully this build guide helped you. You know, the Sniper's in a pretty strong spot, like I said before, and the Heroic Bolt Sniper does kind of overperform, but you know, Heroic Instigator, Bolt Carbine, and Last Fusel, they're all amazing guns, and hopefully this gives you a better idea of how you want to set them up. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye. Hey guys, first regards in here, and so I'll be talking about the best heavy build for Space Marine 2 patch 13 for operations and hard stratagems. Now the heavy is supposed to get a perk tree rework a little bit in the future, but for now he is pretty much identical to patch 12, and his best weapon in my opinion for operations and hard strats for both factions is the heroic heavy bolter Chains of Duty. Now patch 13 buffed up body shot damage on bolters by like 30%. All of them got like a bit of a rework to their headshot multiplier as well, and because of that, they feel substantially better for horde control, and that also extends to this one. Now, the heroic perk effect here is called Reinforced Gun Casing. Perfect parry window increases by 50%, and after a gun strike, the weapon is completely cooled. This is a very powerful effect because it not only gives you this increased perfect parry window, but it also grants you a fencing parry window, and a fencing parry window in this game is so damn strong for the heavy class. This will help you out with Chaos Spawn a ton. It will help you out with Whip Warriors and stuff like that, and the hardest part of the heavy class is his balanced parry window, and for that reason I think this is the best weapon on him for like 99% of the player base. Now another hidden effect of this weapon is that you have your maximum fire rate immediately the moment you pull the trigger. So what happens here is that the moment you hold the trigger down, you will fire off just immediately your max fire rate, as opposed to the relic tier where you have to like kind of wind up for your full fire rate effect. And because of that, the heavy bolter actually has a higher DPS in a lot of cases than these two. Now, or maybe not DPS, but like it has a higher instant 100 to 0 or 0 to 100. You know what I'm saying? Point is that this thing does a lot of damage. Now for the perk tree here, we take fast venting first. Weapons cool 15% faster. Moving here to the perk perfect cooling. After a perfect time dodge, the equipped weapon is completely cooled. Moving over here into the perk Increased Capacity, down here into the perk Headhunter, and then I pick up the perk Heavy Immunity. While in heavy stance, you do not lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back. This perk is incredible. You pretty much always pick this up on every single heavy stance weapon, because the heavy does not have a lot of sources of no knockback at all outside of things like gun strikes for Indomitable Spirit, and because of that, having this built into your weapon is super damn useful for you, and you pretty much always want this. Next perk here is Adamant Restoration. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is restored by 25% of the maximum capacity. Cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, because you have the perk over here, Fortitude, for a health increase of 30%, you are exceptionally tanky on the heavy class. You do a ton of damage, you have a ton of survivability, and when you are at that low HP threshold, thanks to this perk, on top of the perk down here, Conviction, for a 25% health damage reduction, you can kind of hover at like 40% HP, get knocked down below 30% and then get your CHP back and not really like lose anything and just be up ammo. So a really good synergy there, and this is actually one of the best combos in the game for the Heavy Bolter in my opinion. Next perk here is Heavy Might, up here into Heavy Might again for a 30% damage increase, and then I pick up the perk here, Discipline. When you have low ammo, you will deal 25% more damage. Because of the way the ammo economy on Heavy works in this game, you actually hover around low ammo quite often because most of your ammo is drip fed back to you through perks like this or your prestige perk tree with options like auxiliary reload, and because of that you have a ton of options to just like get this damage buff off, which is super nice. Now the final perk options here are up to you. You can either take things like I did here with fast venting down here to the perk Perpetual Cooling and Divine Might, or alternatively you could skip over these two and go up here for Great Might for terminus damage instead of a flat damage buff and increase capacity for more ammo. That is up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the primary here. Now for the secondary, you can take the Heroic Plasma Pistol if you want. This basically fires off a one fat overcharge shot that is higher damage than a Heavy Plasma Incinerator in a lot of cases, so it's a very strong weapon effect, but on this build I still think the rate of fire is better. This is just like an overall higher utility weapon because this one is all damage, but this weapon is better for things like contested health recovery and far more manageable on like instant staggering enemies, and it kind of fills in the gaps on this build where like the Heavy Bolter kind of struggles, and because of that I kind of prefer it here. Now for the perk tree, I just go all the way into the ammo economy because ammo economy is like the main thing this weapon suffers from, on top of stuff like Perpetual Velocity for faster charge shot speed, and also things like Divine Might for more damage. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now for the perk tree, it's pretty much the same as last patch. You take Restoration first, killing 7 enemies wraps Session restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor restore on a drip feed like this is incredible in Space Marine 2 from like patch 1 to patch 13. You just take this perk, it is much better than multi-kill, does nothing for you, and auxiliary ammunition does like jack shit, so definitely pick this one up. Next perk here is Fortitude, health increases by 30%. This is the best perk in this column in my opinion. It makes you way tankier in this game, and because of that you're able to dish out way more damage and worry less about your HP and stay in that heavy stance. Next perk here is Overwhelming Power. When Iron Halo is active, all team members within 10 meters deal 10% more range damage. This will buff up your range damage for yourself a lot on top of your teammates, but there's also a hidden effect here where your Iron Halo will count as in cooldown while it's active, so you can actually simultaneously trigger this perk with the perk over here, Brute Force, for a 25% range damage buff. That is super useful in this game, so a really good synergy there. And next perk here is Encompassing Aegis. All team members take 25% less damage from range attacks. Now range damage reduction will affect your armor, not just your HP, so you are getting the added benefit of taking 25% less from your Restoration perk here for your armor regen, on top of breaking down to your HP, on top of things like Conviction for even more damage reduction. So you are exceptionally tanky with these perks together, and also Encompassing Aegis helps out classes that use a ton of armor regen like the Techmarine a ton. So for the next perk here, we take Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies, Rapid Sessioners for improvement charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. 90-second Melta Bombs, Shock Nades, the new Pyroblaster Canister, these are all top tier effects. This is such a good perk. Consecutive Execution has been god tier since the game came out, and it's no different in patch 13. It's the best install in this column, and like pretty much every build that has it. Next perk here is Power Regulator. Iron Hail loses energy 20% more slowly. Now, Field Adjustment is a bit faster on the regen than this one is overall, but the slower energy loss does come out to like kind of make up for that and give you effectively a similar cooldown, but this one's still a bit faster. So you want to like lose that extra durability to like get a faster Iron Halo, you can definitely do that. I just prefer this one. Next perk here is a Brute Force for the reasons I previously mentioned, and the final perk is Offensive Capability. When active, Iron Halo deals damage over time to all enemies within 5 meters. This perk is incredible, super underrated. You will one-shot cultists, one-shot spore mines, bramble, and stuff like that. It will help you out tremendously in this game, and Offensive Capability really is just that good of a perk. And also they buffed up the perk here, Coolant Reserve, this patch. They buffed the damage and not the trigger requirements, so this one requires your teammates to be dead or grabbed, which is terrible. So for that reason, I would just skip over this forever. This is not worth a 50% damage buff for like such a ridiculous requirement, because first of all, your teammates getting grabbed, That will never happen in this game. You're never going to have both teammates be grabbed simultaneously for more like 5 seconds. Also, if they're all dead or like you're the last guy alive, you probably have bigger problems than the buff from Coolant Reserve. Maybe this will help you then, but this is like the ultimate bad perk of planning for failure, and these perks will keep you alive when you actually like to prevent that failure in the first place. So that's why this one's better, and I would say conversion feels also quite strong, but just stay away from this one. Now, for the prestige perk options, I do take auxiliary reload first, melee kills of extremists or higher enemies for ammo by 1. This just gives you a percentage restore on your heavy weapons, so the heavy bolter here will get like 100 or so rounds back depending on like what your max capacity is. That can change depending on perk selection, but for the most part you just take this all the time because it enables your ammo economy. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction is incredible in this game on top of a 30% HP increase, so you pretty much always pick this up. And the final perks here are things like Indomitable Spirit for no knockback on gun strikes, and then we take Reverberating Impact. Though I want to mention here, Duelist doesn't work on the perfect parries for balance or fencing as of patch 12. That was confirmed like a dev email, which kind of sucks, so like it's all currently a placebo effect, but just keep that in mind. And that's pretty much all there is for the heavy class. Hopefully this build guide helped you, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, thank you for watching, take it easy, bye. Hey guys, first regards in here, I'll be talking about the best Techmarine build for Space Marine 2 patch 13 for operations and hard stratagems. Now the Techmarine is in a very strong spot currently. He may not be like a god tier class compared to a Bulwark and Assault, but he is still very strong. He has a ton of horde clear, a ton of boss damage, and the only real downside of your class is that you are very squishy. You are tied for the lowest health total in the entire game with the sniper class, and you also have a longer knockdown time than most other classes do. So if your armor breaks for like whatever reason, you are very much within nuke territory by enemies, so we're going to be building around something to circumvent that. Starting with our primary option, the heroic heavy bolt rifle. Now, the grenade launchers in this game are very strong for contested health recovery and stagger. I just think this one is the overall best on the Techmarine currently because it's really good as an actual gun as well, and because of that you can take full advantage of stuff like long range barrage and chained headshots. So the heroic heavy bolt rifle, pretty strong on him, and grenades in this game, they're contested health recovery and stagger. That will benefit you especially because if this class loses armor, your HP is going to drain very quickly, and having an option to instantaneously get that back is very good for you. Now for the perk tree setup, I do start off with the perk Headhunter first. Headshots deal 10% more damage. Moving here to the perk Adamant Hunter. When your health is below 30%, headshots will deal 25% more damage. Now this is a very strong perk effect. Unfortunately, being below 30% HP on a Techmarine does put you into like one-shot territory, so while this is active, you need to be exceptionally careful. Next perk here is Fast Reload. Over here into the perk Able Reload. After using a class ability, the equipped weapon instantaneously reloads. And then we pick up the perk here, Headhunter, up here into the perk Tactical Precision. Headshots deal 20% more damage, and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. Now, you will lose some damage on your grenade launcher portion here, but the contested health recovery is still exceptional, and the damage is still very high, so losing 10% on that, really not too bad for you, and the headshot buff here is worth it, in my opinion, though I will say, in patch 13, they did buff up all the bolter body shot damage as well, so if you do want to skip over this for like extended magazine, even more grenades, you can definitely do that. Next perk here is Great Might, down here into the perk Increased Capacity, and then I grab the perk here, Recoupment. Killing a Majoris or higher enemy with a headshot this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Getting free armor regen, especially on the Techmarine, is super valuable because armor will prevent all incoming melee damage to 0 no matter what, on top of the fact that this class has a ton of range damage reduction built into him with stuff like Omnisign, Axe Deflection, and Scramble Targeting, and that can get you armor damage reduction as well for range attacks, so a really strong option for him especially. Next perk here is Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies rapid succession restores health by 10%. We have a grenade launcher, so triggering rapid kills is super easy for us. A great perk option. This also helps you stay above like one-shot territory. Next perk here is Perpetual Penetration, and the final perk is Divine Might for a 10% damage buff. Though I will say, if you want to skip over this, for like another grenade option, you can take extended magazine. This will buff up not only your magazine capacity, but also your grenade portion as well. And that's pretty much all there is for the primary. Now for the secondary option, I do take the rate of fire plasma pistol. This is still the best option overall for him and like most classes in the game. It still has tremendous CHP recovery, great stagger, great damage. The only thing that kind of sucks on this is your damage against zoanthropes and also your ammo economy. So for the perk tree, we set it up as usual. This hasn't been like changed at all this patch. So number one, plasma collection into perks here like rapid cooling, go all the way through the line for other things like perpetual velocity for even faster charge speed, efficient charge for more ammo economy on your charge shots, and then plasma collection again and divine might for 10% damage buff. Now I will say for the melee weapon here, we do take the Argent Edge. The Techmarine especially really wants the gun strikes. I know a ton of people love the Omniscient Axe, but as far as like the best option in the game goes for the Techmarine currently, it's just the Argent Edge. Like this thing can handle both Chaos and Tyranids, and we're building like the best build in the game for this guy. I think it really is just like in a league of its own for this class especially. Now for the perk tree on this, it does have the heroic perk effect called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. Being able to interrupt a triple combo from a Ravener, from a melee Terminator, even things like Chaos Spawn, that will save your life on any class, but on this class especially, that is incredible. You can pull off your gun strikes immediately for free, so the synergy is quite obvious here. It's just an amazing weapon for this class, and that's why we're taking it here today. Now for the perk tree on this, I do take the perk down here, Perpetual Strength first, moving here into the perk Kinetic Energy. Each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3% up to 30% for 3 seconds. This perk is pretty good. I do think it's better on the Power Gladius because you have a faster speed to actually like chain up these hits, but even here your 18 strength is quite high. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, over here into the perk Heavy Onslaught. Heavy attacks with this weapon deal 15% more melee damage. This will affect the damage of your Shadow Stab, so just keep that in mind. Moving here to the perk Reeling Blow, Shadow Stab for the single target damage. Up here into the perk Tide of Battle and Shoulder Bash. Replace Distance Stab with Shoulder Bash. All this does is replace your lunging attack. The lunging attack here feels way better in my opinion. The recovery frames are a bit higher it feels like, and also it just animation locks you significantly less. Next perk here is Terminus Slayer for more boss damage, though alternatively you could take the perk down here Extremis Slayer, but that is up to you. Now for the Techmarine's perk tree, I do take the perk down here Precision Enhancement first. The Servo Gun now targets single dangerous enemies and fires powerful precision shots. Now a lot of players like Plasma in this game with the burn effect. I think that is better for siege mode because there are so many enemies there, but in the hard strats and operations, I think Precision Enhancement is just better. Like the CHP recovery here is amazing. The enemy density is much lower, so like usually you're getting like the full benefit from this and one lethal perimeter, and being able to one-shot zoanthropes, being able to like place down a single shot and just shoot a neurothrope, it is a super powerful ability. But if you want to take these other options, you definitely could. Next perk here is Omniscient Axe Deflection. After a perfect parry or perfect block, you take 25% less damage from ranged attacks for 10 seconds. This is like the major benefit of the Argent Edge, is that unlike the Omniscient Axe, you don't need to take Arc Cleave for your melee damage. You can just take Omniscient Axe Deflection and get this 25% range damage reduction, and range damage reduction will affect your armor, which you have multiple sources of armor regen on this build with things like Battlefield Repairs and Fortifying Salvo that I'll get into later, so you definitely want this perk. Though if you really don't feel like you need the range damage reduction because you're fighting Tyranids or something, I guess you could take Methodical Destruction or even Arc Cleave because both of these still work on this build. Next perk here is a Long Range Barrage. Range damage at ranges greater than 20 meters increases by 25%. This will buff up the range damage of your Plasma, Grenade, and your Heavy Bolt Rifle portion, so a really good option here. And also things like Explosives Adept, even though it's got buffed from like 35% to 50, it's still not that strong in my opinion for this build. I would mainly take this on a fully equipment focused build, and the perk down here, Push the Advantage, doesn't do a ton for us at all. Next perk here is Battlefield Repairs. Squad members restore one additional armor segment for finishers on Majoris or Extremis enemies. This is just the best Techmarine team perk by far. One extra armor is so strong in this game for so many reasons because number one, it helps you out with range damage reduction. It also just helps your teammates that are very squishy like Tactical eat more melee hits because certain melee hits in Space Marine 2 will take off 2 armor, but some of them only take off 1, and every hit from an enemy melee attack, no matter the amount of armor remaining, like I've said before, will stop all incoming melee damage, so having 2 armor segments is super nice for breakpointing that. Next perk here is an extrable salvo. While the servo gun is active, you don't lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back, and the effect lasts 15 seconds after deactivation. Now, on this build, we are taking the perk over here, a lethal perimeter. This one says the servo gun marks a zone and automatically attacks enemies that enter it using 50% less energy per shot. This basically works like an aspect scan area where you put it down and you can manually reactivate it to like close off the area, and if you shoot this into like the ceiling and turn it off, you will trigger the 15-second like lingering effect of this perk. And no knockback on this class is super valuable because, like I mentioned before, the Techmarine does have the longest knockdown time of any class in the game, and preventing a full knockdown is really valuable on this guy especially, so definitely want this one. Next perk here is Replenishing Salvo. Killing or incapacitating enemy with the servo gun restores an equipment charge. The cooldown is 75 seconds. This will just get you endless melta bombs, pyro-blaster canisters, and stuff like that back. This is also another reason I prefer precision enhancement, because the burn effect from plasma enhancement will not actually trigger this perk. You have to directly incapacitate the enemy with your plasma gun, which isn't too hard, but like this one does that all the time, so for that reason I prefer this. The next perk here is a Fortifying Salvo. Killing or incapacitating an enemy with the servo gun restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This is another reason I enjoy the lethal perimeter combo with this over, say, Decapitating Stratagem, because you don't have to take the perk down here, Strategic Gun Strike, to target Majoris only with your servo gun, because you can just manually do that with lethal perimeter regardless. And the thing is that you really do have to take that Decapitating Stratagem, or you'll just waste a ton of shots, unlike Minoris. Wasting a precision enhancement shot on a Hormigaunt is one of the worst feelings in the game, so for that reason I prefer this. Now it also opens up the perk effect for Fortifying Salvo to give us an armor back on a 30-second cooldown, which is incredibly valuable for us for the same reason that Battlefield Repairs is. And the final perk is of course a Lethal Perimeter, and that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. Now for the Prestige perk options, this is another place where the Argent Edge has helped us out a bit, where we have some saved perk points to just spend on what we want. So number 1, we take Chained Headshots for headshot damage increases, just like Acuity on the Tactical. This will benefit only our Heavy Bolt Rifle portion, but like that's all we needed to. The next perk here is Unflinching Focus. You are invulnerable to damage while activating Tarantula Sentry Guns. This is just a mandatory perk in my opinion. Not having this, you'll just die sometimes for trying to activate your Sentry Guns, and this gives you a ton of utility. The next perk here is Stim Boost. Medicaid Stims restore 40% more HP, and the final perk is Defensive Stance. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you take 20% less damage from ranged attacks. Now, since we don't have a ton of melee damage, we don't need Furious Gunstrike. Volatile Sentry sucks, even though it has a 1000% damage increase. It's really not that high. Like one shot the the Majoris only. And the final perk here, Blast Radius, is okay. The range damage reduction here is just better, and that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. You know, I do think this is the best build setup overall for operations and hard strats for both Chaos and Tyranids on the Techmarine currently. There are obvious changes you could make to this. You want to like do some different stuff, but for the most part, as an archetype, I think this is the best option, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. If you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, and also a link to my community Discord. And as always, thanks for watching, take it easy, bye.